Paranormal Legend Society, in studio with us talking about all things. So bring us through a little bit. I call you to my house. Something is freaking me out. Tell me, what equipment would you set up, and what are the questions you would ask, or how would you go through to start this? Before you get to that, how long normally does an investigation last? Are you guys there all night, or?
It depends on the activity. I mean, if we go there and we get nothing, we'll be there for a few hours.
Right.
The client may say, oh, the activity doesn't start until 2:30 in the morning. Okay, well, we'll be there at midnight.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll try from there. Sometimes we'll be there for many, many hours because the activity's great. It's intense. We're getting a lot of feedback. We're getting motion, sight, sound, smells, all these crazy things. So we'll stay there as long as we can.
So have there been times where you have showed up and ended up staying out longer because it's just off the wall?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you did, and that's a new thing.
Yeah. On a Sunday, we didn't go home until what, 2:30, and then get up to go to work the next day. That was a good day.
Things actually didn't start getting hot until after 10 o'clock that night.
Yeah.
10, 11 o'clock.
I stayed home to snooze.
And that's kind of a weird area too, where it was farmland for a while, and then other buildings came up, and you can see out in that area where the neighborhood farmer who put their life's work into this farm, now it's been bulldozed and there's a new building up, maybe not feeling so hot about that.
Well, that building's got quite a history. It's back when the Big River Reservoir was being built. It was a red light district, so you have
That's
it used
scary.
to be a what do they call it upstairs? A brothel upstairs at that place. So you got some interesting characters there.
Farmer's daughter. So you come in, you set up. What kind of equipment do you set up? Is it just standard cameras, things like that, or?
No, we well, it's some of the basic stuff. We just bought a night vision DVR camera set, so we'll set that up. The client tells us the key areas of the house, so we'll go and try to set up and get the best view of what they see, and see if we can set everything up around that. And then there's always teams of two that will go out, and each set has their own recorders. Digital voice recorders. They bring their EMF detectors. Herbie has the Mel meter. And when you start doing investigations, if the house is small, we'll put in like 2 people at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Most of you will sit at the home base and just wait and interact with, see who, if it's not male and and it's not really working out, we send Lisa in with her and the new girl, and we try to get them to interact. Maybe it'll interact more with women.
Right, because, and I've heard from other groups, they send in a female because old school, guys, a lot of sexism, 1700s, 1800s, 1900s, 2000s maybe, depending on your perspective. Sending that female into their house can really key things up, right?
Yes.
And that's interesting to think that, that would set them off as opposed to anything else.
Now, we're talking about one point to make here before we go any further, I think, is we're talking about things, and we're talking about them, and we're talking different names for these things. I mean, what exactly, in a way it's an obvious question, but what exactly are we talking about here? Are these like literally human souls that never went to where they belong? Are these psychic residue? Are these, what exactly, I mean, demons leave those are under the page.
Right.
But these other things that we're talking about, like, what exactly are they?
We've come across, it was pretty much, you get a lot of residual, so it's not, there's no intelligence, it's not a spirit, it's just something trapped in time, energy that's released at a certain time, a certain date, and it's going to play whether you're there or not.
Because I think that confuses a lot of people. In other words,
Yes.
they're thinking about the soul of my grandmother never went to heaven or wherever it's supposed to go. I mean,
Yeah, we get that a lot where, I'm worried about my family member. I've seen him, but I only see him once in a great while at the same time. Usually that kicks in, okay, I'm going to pull more towards residual now. And after, investigation, the interview, we'll sit down with the client, we'll say, okay, what has happened to who, where, what were you doing at this time? That has a lot of key points of, maybe going back to the objects where, this used to be my grandmother's, and I was polishing it or whatever it was, and all of a sudden she showed up and was smiling at me because she was happy I polished it. It's just
right. But it's the emotional it's an emotional residue. It's never the soul, so to speak, of
no, and the residual,
person.
no. We have come across intelligent hauntings as well, where we actually have interaction. We have a conversation with somebody who's passed on, which is what's exhilarating.
You've been touched numerous times at the client's house in Warwick.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's an interesting point because I was, just by coincidence, a couple of weeks ago, I was having a debate, I guess, with a practicing Christian.
Okay.
And that was basically the crux of things. In other words, there's, biblically and according to the Christian faith, when you die, you go to your reward or wherever you're going, you go.
Yes.
On the instant. So there's no real room in the Christian mythology for souls to be wandering the earth.
Exactly.
So so it would be always psychic residue. It would never, according to the Christian interpretation, it would never be a soul wandering the earth.
Yes, I would say yes for the Christian faith. Yes, because the paranormal and Christianity are not good fellows.
Right. But now assuming the Christian faith is, oh my God, wrong in this matter.
No.
I'm not saying any comment. I don't want.
No, because really, like I say, I'm not trying to drive it into the ground, but there is, like I say, people very affected by the idea that my grandmother's not at rest, my father's not at rest, and this troubles them to the point where sometimes it leads them to an early death. Their anxiety, they get that emotionally distressed, and I've met a couple of such people. And before I met you guys, obviously, or I would have put you on the case. But this actually distresses people.
Absolutely, yeah. I could see where it could be very stressful. Right. Your loved one, as you see this entity, whether it's residual or intelligent, you thinking, how come you're not with my grandfather? How come you're not with mom? Or heaven? Right. Now it really would bother that person. Absolutely.
Right. So intelligent, but there can be intelligent residue.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. That's the point I wanted you to clarify very clearly.
There's two different things. You have, to me, a ghost is just residual. Then you have a spirit, which you can interact. You can have a conversation. You can be touched, pulled, pushed, kissed, kicked, whatever it is, and you can have a conversation with this entity using different types of equipment. You can use the basic digital recorder. You can use the K2, which we tell them to get close, but wave your hand next to it. How many lights can you light up? And we start a base of communication, and it's worked out quite well a few times. 2 lights for yes, 3 lights for no, and it's worked out quite well.
So you can draw that out, and I could see where having this pre-interview with the client and then asking specific questions could draw that out even more, right?
Absolutely.
Yes. How did it lead up or whatever?
The history of the client is pretty much a lot to do because there's so many things that could trigger.
Yeah, they don't know if it's the house, again, or if it's the client. So one of us will go and do the background of the house, get the history of the land, make sure it's nothing residual in the ground, and then go from her, and then try him or her, and try to figure out what their history was.
It could be the individual as well. Usually paranormal activity kicks up after a traumatic incident,
right.
A loss of a loved one, a divorce, a lot of different things depending on the individual. People are more traumatic on different things than others, and that's usually the key.
I'm going to spin a few more tunes, then unfortunately we're going to have to come back and wrap it up. I'm going to let you all know out there in Radio Land how you can get a hold of Paranormal Legend Society. I want to talk about Mills real quick, but before that, we're going to hear from the Grubs, and this track is I Got No Money.
Let's go! Come on! Right now, we got no money and I'm feeling stressed. They said a smile, I'm a little depressed. I'm trying to find some work, but what can I do? I'm stuck with the unemployment thing. Yeah. We got no money, we got no money, we got no money, we got no money. Please be gone.
The Grubs, right here on the Tony Jones Show. Unfortunately, one of those weeks where the hour has just flown by. I do want to touch on real quick and the fact that we live in a very historic area, and it's very popular to take an old mill, an industrial mill, or whatever it may be, and put in these nice hoity-toity condos or some nice apartments in it. And I could see where that would be an issue. And I've heard from people who have walked to tour these mill apartments and said, I can't rent that because I'm freaked out. Is that psychological on just them seeing an old building, or is this something that you guys are seeing while you're out there with the mills?
We're seeing it. We're seeing a lot of it in West Warwick. The old mills are just creepy. People are complaining of seeing dark shadows, and every time they walk by the halls, they're seeing things out of the corner of their eyes. They're smelling cigarette smoke or in their own apartments, and they can't figure out why, and they see the black shadows with the top hats on walking around.
Then they see their rent bill, and I'm paying this much for this?
And then they become a spirit because it's traumatic.
Well, no, the rent is higher because of these apparitions.
Yeah.
I mean, you're paying extra.
You're paying for more people.
Exactly.
Rick was actually saying about the mill in West Warwick that we went to, where you could actually hear the old wagon wheels.
Like an old cart, like the metal wheels on a wooden floor be dragged across the floor, and it shake so hard it shook the lady's glasses, and there's nothing there. There's no one jumping. You can hear people upstairs, but the walls are so thick up there you couldn't hear anything.
And that wasn't anything that you were able to debunk, a train going
the waterfall
by?
was off. Somehow, I guess they shut the waterfall off. They slow it down or something.
And that was a heavy cart to even push.
And it was off before that sound actually occurred.
We thought that. We tried moving the chairs. We tried dragging the chairs. And it didn't even sound like that. We went upstairs and we found one of those carts on one of the decorations, and we rolled it, and you could hear the wheels, how they would drag across the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, back then there was a lot of child labor in those mills, wasn't there?
Yes.
And a lot of cruelty connected to those child laborers.
Well, and not
Slater
just,
mill,
I mean, the
Lippet
adults weren't treated so hot either.
And the kids worse.
Yeah.
Yes. They use the kids because they get fit up inside the machinery.
Yeah. That's the best part of, one of the best parts of living where we live is the history of being able to go out and see these things and do these things.
I don't think there's a place in Rhode Island that you can't go to where you're going to find some kind of a experience going on.
I can't think of any, even if you just broke it down by city and towns.
Even the old Ramtail, which has been going for years and years and years, hundreds of years, and it's actually got a ghost on the
land.
On the land, and it's also the only ghost that they count.
On the population.
And the population.
And the census,
it's actually documented, yeah.
Documented that Ramtail has a ghost.
That's interesting to see, like Dunkin' Donuts decide they want to put a drive-through there. Remember when they were going to bulldoze the Lizzie Borden bed and breakfast and put a Starbucks there? As a history nerd, I wanted to throw up when I heard about that.
Well, that was easily defeated, though, right?
Yeah, it went down. Unfortunately, guys, we're going to wrap things up. But what is the best way for people to find PLS? They can find you on Facebook, online, all those good things.
Yes, we're on Facebook, and we also have our website. We just gave you the website. We have an email address, PLS of New England. Gmail.
Go to ParanormalLegendSociety.com. That'll be our website.
I have to read it.
And of course, they can always Google you too. That'll work.
Yes,
right?
they can Google us. It'll come up. www.ParanormalLegendsSociety.com, and we're also on Facebook. And our phone numbers are on there. Jay and myself, Rick. You can always get in touch with us that way.
Thank you, guys. I could talk about this all night, but
thank you for having us.
The boss won't let me. TonyJones.org is my website. Facebook.com/Tony Jones Show. Please consider joining us each and every week on the Tony Jones Show.